Good morning. You're listening to 91.1 The Bridge. This is Impact, and it is my pleasure to welcome what I described as a bona fide sports icon to the show, Sandy Bowman. Welcome.
Thanks, Russell.
Sandy is prolific in this community for a whole bunch of reasons. He runs Bowman's Taekwondo, of course. You compete once in a while. I don't know if you still do. You might be retired.
I'm definitely retired.
Oh, yeah, you and me both, buddy.
Yeah.
But he's also been really a champion of youth sport in the community, and we're going to talk about a lot of these things here today and some of the work that you're doing in the community. So I'm glad that you're here. We've been friends for a long time. In fact, I call you one of the early adopters of my art career.
Oh, definitely.
You have a nice collection of my paintings, so thank you for that.
Oh, thank you.
But I really don't know a lot about you personally. I honestly don't know your story of how you came to Fort McMurray. Maybe you were born here. I have no idea. How did you end up here?
It's a good story.
Yeah, let's hear it.
I finished university in Nova Scotia in '92, and I headed out to British Columbia for a job. And away there, I was told I have lots of relatives in Fort McMurray, so we decided to take a side trip to come to Fort McMurray to visit my uncles and aunts that I hadn't seen in years, and I never left. That's the whole story. So I've been here by accident since 1993.
So you came, but you had no intention of staying.
Zero.
And you just stayed.
Yeah.
You obviously were traveling light.
Yes, we had me and one of my friends and a Honda Civic and everything we owned in that Honda Civic. So
1993.
Yeah, that's
what was Fort McMurray like in 1993?
Nothing like it is now. Timberlea was a trailer court with a big open parking lot to practice driving. It's basically what Timberlea
the dead
was at the time.
streets.
Yeah, exactly. That's what. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So how, not to check how old you are, but how old were you in 1993?
23.
Just a young fella.
Yeah.
Wow.
Got to see the world.
So at that time, were you into Taekwondo and the things that you are now, or
Yep.
was that something you developed when
No,
you came?
I started that when I was 9 years old.
Yeah.
So when I was competing quite a bit before coming out here. So when I did decide I was going to move here, I went to different places in town to train. I had no intention of teaching martial arts at the time. I went to look at different places that was in town to train, and there was really nothing at the caliber I was at. So I started teaching some relatives and friends some stuff at Mac Island at the time, which was a small little aerobics room they had off the weight room. I started teaching there a few times a week, and kind of exploded to what it is today. The numbers kept growing and growing. My first martial arts school was on Biggs Avenue, which from there moved. Actually, I was at Comp for a long time using the facilities here, and then to a main location in Fraser, and just kept going from there.
Do you have any idea, this may be a tough question, how many people that you've worked with and helped train in all of those years?
I've actually, I was asked that question last week, and we did some kind of just figuring out how many people per year and what the turnaround is, and that's where there's probably about 11,000 I've had into my program over the last, in the last 10 years, about 11,000. So beyond that, the numbers, I don't really know.
That's unbelievable. What time did you move into your current space?
Right now, it's 7 years ago.
So it's been a while.
Yeah, we've been there for a while, yeah.
So you've been doing this professionally, you've competed over the years. You're probably a member of the Sports Hall of Fame, are you?
Yes, yeah, 2012.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
So you have this great history behind you, but you've also seen the development of Fort McMurray as a community. Really, we've maturated a lot in the last 20 years, because you came just a few years before I did. How important is it, do you think, for both the health of the community and the health of individuals to have this vibrant sport opportunities in our community, whether it's games or programs like you run?
I think it's for building up the youth in the community. That's going to be our adults in just a few short years, because the time goes by so fast that these children we're teaching now, whether it's in martial arts or other youth sport, I've been involved with youth hockey, ringette, more recently Aurora basketball, helping them get started, and my children have been involved in that since the beginning, and I'm a huge advocate of that program. I teach children's self-defense, which has nothing to do with my programs, but it's a quick thing for children. So any kind of youth sport at all, whether it's in my programs or other, that builds up just good adults, good humans for the rest of their lives. I mean, a child that stays at home and plays video games, and which they will do on their own, if it's their own option, but as parents and pushing them into these youth sports stuff, they learn Well, for one thing, they learn leadership. They learn how to follow direction. They learn just camaraderie and respect for their fellow athletes and competitors. So any kind of sport, I'm a huge advocate of it.
What have you observed in your own children?
Well, my own children, my daughter played ringette from the age of 4 to, I think, 16. And she probably would have kept playing if I had pushed her a little more when she was that age. But at that age, nothing I say is right. So maybe if I pushed her against it, she would have went with it. But she started from a point where she was like my children are complete opposite of me. I'm competition 110%, and they have no, maybe it's because of that, they're not very competitive at all. And she started from a point when she was 4 and she hadn't been on ice, and played with the Ringette Association here for over 10 years. And just to see where she went with that, meeting friends that are lifetime friends. And I've still talked to a lot of the parents that I was involved with back when she was 4 years old in the community here. And my son, same thing, he's involved with basketball, so I support that 110%, but besides video games, that's his outlet.
You had a great quote off the air, something, if I got it right, you are not much technique, but a lot of drive.
Oh yeah, I'm like, as I'm getting older, my technique's slowing down, but I think George Foreman said it best. He goes, the last thing that goes power. So.
Crazy. My guest this morning is Sandy Bowman from Bowman's Taekwondo, a big volunteer in sport in the community. You mentioned that you were involved in the Western Canada Summer Games a couple of years ago.
Yes.
What were you doing with that?
I was a co-chair with Chad Rice for the wrestling. It was a great event. We met some great people from around Alberta that run the Alberta Wrestling. Andy Ross is one of them. I'm still good friends with Andy. And we ran that for 3 or 4 days, and the biggest thing with that was we set up the venue and got everything going, but the volunteers that the community raised from that event alone was enormous.
We had, if you're not aware, we had thousands of athletes that come from all over Western Canada.
Yeah.
And what was the response, from your perspective, of people that had never been to Fort McMurray before?
Oh, it's with that event or with any event in Fort McMurray, right away. And even myself, when I moved here, I expected to see my uncle's house, and across the street an oil derrick is what I expected to see in Fort McMurray in '93. So when people come up for any event, their response is generally the same. They can't believe what a beautiful community it is and what a huge community it is.
The best quote I had was from a parent, I think from the Yukon, who said, you know, I'm not impressed with Fort McMurray. I'm blown away by Fort McMurray.
Yeah, exactly.
Just unbelievable.
Yeah.
So you're involved in that. I know that coming up soon is the Alberta Winter Games?
Yes.
When is that? Is that next year?
Next year, yeah.
Are you involved with that as well?
Yes. Again, myself and Chad Rice, because Chad's a huge support of editing community. I mean, everyone kind of goes to him as the setup guy. He knows how to set up a venue. He knows how to make it work. He knows that stuff. So him and I, again, are co-chairs with the boxing for the the Winter Games.
Chad is a great guy, and you've been involved with him with some of your big events. The name is escaping me.
Prestige.
Yeah, the Prestige events. And at the last one, you I was going to say forced me. I volunteered to go in the ring with Don Scott. And when we come back, I'm going to reflect on that horrible experience. You're listening to Impact. It is a collaboration of the United Way, Fuse Social, Shaw TV, Fort McMurray, and our friends right here at 91.1 The Bridge. Welcome back to the program. My guest today is Sandy Bowman from Bowman's Taekwondo, also an avid volunteer in the community. It was minus 17 this morning. What is with that?
Yeah, spring yesterday, right?
You know, it just never seems to want to end.
No.
And I know there was a story in the local paper today. What day is it today? Tuesday. So it's today. Just that we've had about 58% less moisture over the winter than a normal year. So it's going to be an interesting spring.
Yeah, we're on par with last year, basically. I think we have less snow this year than we had last year.
And we know what happened last year. Before we dive into the memory of the last Prestige event where I got in the ring, how did you fare with the whole fire situation?
It was, well, like everybody, my story that day was pretty incredible. Like when we were leaving, like we have 3 animals that couldn't be in the same vehicle, so we have myself, my girlfriend, my children all in 3 different vehicles leaving town. So it was like,
wow,
like every other convoy of vehicles leaving. So it was an experience I wouldn't want to repeat.
You went south.
Yes, we went south right away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And ended up at a campsite by Boyle somewhere.
Yeah, I have a lake lot in Boyle, so
Yeah.
I've had for 12 years. So it was we were lucky in that aspect that we could go somewhere the kids were comfortable and lots of friends around. So for us it worked out really well.
How long did it take you to get there?
Not that long actually, because I was basically going up Beacon Hill when the gas station was on fire. Basically, is when I got through. So I think that was 3 p.m. We were in Boyle by 6 o'clock.
You're one of the lucky ones.
Yeah, because once we cleared Gregoire Lake, it was straight right through there. Sun was shining.
You've been in the community a long time. You deal with a lot of people through your work at Bowman's Taekwondo. Do you have a sense of how are people doing generally?
Right now, it's getting kind of back to I think a new normal, I like to call it, because it's not the way it was before the evacuations. And I have a different, I wouldn't say a different group of people coming into the gym now, but everyone has kind of there's a different vibe to it. There's a lot of people getting their kids involved now and one of the reasons is just because they're kind of finding it hard in school. There are some other issues that weren't prevalent before the fires.
You teach Taekwondo. Is that all? What do you teach? What are your areas of specialty?
Right now I teach mostly Taekwondo
Okay.
and then kickboxing is mostly what I teach right now.
Is there a therapeutic quality to that kind of training?
Oh,
is that
absolutely.
why you're seeing
I think so,
new
yeah.
people?
I mean, just the adrenaline rush. Well, you were in the ring. You know what that rush is like.
We're going to talk about that.
But
therapy's going well.
Yeah. So I mean, you've seen that. So if you do that a couple times a week, like hitting pads and training, like there's no better therapy than physical training. Like I mean, you train your body, your mind will follow.
Yeah.
And it's just pushing yourself to that point. It's almost like training in martial arts is like you go there and it's something each day to have proper training, something you're a little bit scared of that day, but the benefits are immeasurable.
But I would imagine there's a discipline to it. There's a
of course.
respect. There's a whole bunch of those things that help develop yourself as a human being.
Oh, absolutely. Like martial arts training, and I've said this 1,000 times over the last 30 years, there's no secret in martial arts training. What it is basically, in my opinion, the way my grandparents treated me and the way respect I had for them is what martial arts basically trained you. Something that's kind of lost in the family values and stuff. I found in the last probably 30 years, it's kind of something that's gone to the wayside.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my interpretation of martial arts now. It's how I treated my grandparents when I was a child, is how the children in the dojang treat the instructors and masters.
My wife was into Taekwondo when she lived in Saskatoon. She still talks about it very fondly.
I'm pretty sure she came to my gym at one time.
Before I started dating her, sorry,
Yeah.
I stole your business. So let's go back. Let's go back to the last Prestige event, which I thought you were one of the organizers
No.
of, but apparently you've backed out of that. Not backed out of it, but you have a different role now. You're working with the Sports Commission as a volunteer.
Yes.
And helping to manage perhaps the governance and how these things operate.
Yeah, mostly the safety and sanctioning of the event. And before there was a commission in Fort McMurray, in those events then, I was involved with it, but the role I have now is pretty much exactly what my role was at that time.
So you recruited me and
Yes.
Don Scott to get in the ring at the last event to raise some money for charity. And I have to tell you, I was excited about it, though that was the longest. You said it was a minute?
I'm pretty sure it was a minute, yeah.
It was the longest. Honestly, it felt like 100 minutes. Like it was the longest.
It's a different form of cardio
is.
you'll never match.
I don't do cardio. I paint. That's not cardio. That's something else.
And Don's an avid badminton player, so he's...
He did better than me. Although there was
We were both on your knees by the end of the...
Absolutely. We were both exhausted. But at some point, I remember he forgot to take off his glasses.
Yes.
And so I hit him. We were wearing these oversized gloves. And I got him in the noggin, and his glasses went flying. And I remember just my brain trying to process, okay, what's the right thing to do? Do I pick up the glasses? Anyway, we just kept on fighting. And, but it was for a good cause, but you'll never, ever get me to do it again. JD, who's operating the board here today, said he'll volunteer, and so will Brianna from Shaw Cable.
Yeah,
So
we'll pass those along to
maybe
Chad
the two of them.
Prestige and it's May 12th, so you guys be in there.
I know Tyron Alt and Paul
Yes.
McWilliams also fought, and sorry, Tanny Yao. Who was he up against? Tanny. Who did you fight? Anyway, it was fun to watch,
Yeah.
but it was painful. I remember actually after to be honest, I took everything I had not to throw up after, because my body was just revolting.
Oh yeah.
So I don't. So how do these people that are really competing? How do they do it? Like, because they fight for much longer.
Yeah, they're usually 5-minute rounds. Well, honestly, what it is the training beforehand. I mean, if like you see an iceberg, there's a little tip on the top. That's your fight. The giant part at the bottom, that's the training. The training that goes behind it, like it's so much. It's like I said before, you have to do something you're scared of doing, but you do it anyway. And that's what the training for an MMA fight. The training is grueling, and mentally crushes you. But then you get your fight, and that's the fun part. Training's the hard part, and the fighting part's the fun part. I mean, like walking out the Casman in Prestige 3, when I walked out, it was like 3,000 people cheering. I mean, you never match that anywhere, anytime.
Yeah.
And getting to walk out, that was awesome too.
Our mutual friend, Dwayne, is coming out of retirement, I believe, at the next Prestige event. And Dwayne I've painted several times. So he's come back after a period of time of quote unquote being retired.
Yep.
That has to be much harder.
Dwayne's a different beast. I've known Dwayne since he started training. I've been like his coach and trainer and good friend since we met. And he's a different beast. I mean, we have guys in my gym and other gyms that want to fight, and then they have a fight and they back out and they have excuses. And mom's grandmother's cat died. There's thousands of excuses to get out of a fight once you get in. And Dwayne is the one guy that I've seen with back injuries, broken hands, torn hamstrings, you name the injury over the years, and he's getting in there. And his whole drive. And I mean, honestly, if he's not training, he's not happy. He's got to be trained to the point where just destroys himself, and he just becomes like, well, you've painted him, so you know what that drive has done. I mean, he's a walking action figure. And if you took the Hulk action figure from 1980 and just painted him white with some tattoos, that's Dwayne Lewis.
Yeah. So Dwayne and his family were living in the Wood Buffalo area.
Yes.
And they were one of the families that lost their homes. In fact, if I recall, their home was sort of an anomaly. It was the one home in their particular area that went up.
Yeah, we were actually, when we evacuated, our lake lots are next to each other. So I was with him the night we found out that was his house. We were sitting together around the campfire, and we were looking at the satellite images, and he said, no, my house is gone. That gray image is there. And I was looking at mine and said, well, that gray image is in my driveway, so it's probably a shadow, whatever. And then one of the firefighters we knew messaged us back. They took a drive around and said, no, there was 2 houses in the middle. There was not a house burnt with blocks, and the 2 houses burnt to the ground, vehicles still in the yard, garbage cans still in front of the garage, and both houses gone.
That must have been just so tough.
Oh, unreal.
I can't even imagine. So in his house, he had the very first portrait that I did of him, which we lost. So between you and me, we contrived to have me do another one, and we brought him to the opening of my art exhibit. He didn't know that I had painted a new portrait.
No.
You know, his reaction and inability to speak is one of the reasons I do what I do, because it was really moving. And then he went home and he sent me this very profound, beautiful message.
Yeah.
And he's a pretty tough guy.
Oh yeah.
But
he's got a big heart.
Yeah, it was a beautiful moment. My guest this morning is a good friend, Sandy Bowman. Been in the community a very long time, even longer than me. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah, 23 years.
I think I was on the radio station with Sean.
Sean, now you're going to test me.
You were at the station at the time, I think.
Okay.
What was his name?
I don't know which station, the country or the rock
CJOK,
station?
the 12.
Oh gosh, now you're
12:30.
testing me.
12:30 a.m.
I don't remember. I'm old. We go back a long time.
Yeah.
Sandy Bowman is the owner of Bowman's Taekwondo, avid volunteer in the community. We're going to come back with more of Impact right after this. Welcome back to the show. Sandy Bowman is my guest, an avid volunteer in the community, getting ready for the Alberta Winter Games. You're doing some work, you said, in wrestling? Is
Boxing.
it? Boxing.
Boxing.
Tell me about, what do you know about these games? I've been kind of in the dark. Tell me about the Alberta Winter Games and what we can expect.
I've been in the dark as well.
Oh, really? But you know about boxing?
Just boxing, yeah, because we kind of take on one sport.
So where do you do boxing at an event like that?
It's going to be at the Westwood School.
Okay.
At the gymnasium there. Basically what happens is you kind of, when you take on one of those roles, you kind of get, you narrow your vision to what you're going to have there. So quite a bit goes into every single event, whether it's gymnastics or boxing or badminton, any of the events. There's so much organization that goes in behind the scenes. When people come to see the event, you see the end result. Like I said about a fight, you don't see all the hard work before that, you see the fun part. And that's what people will see as the fun part, not the setting up the ring and the venues and making sure everything, we have travel arrangements for athletes to go from where they're staying to the venue. There's so many people behind the scenes that everybody has a specific job of what they're going to do, that it's going to be exciting.
When you look back in our time in Fort McMurray, and even before my time, there was the triathlon event that you might have been involved in. That would have been in the mid-1990s.
Yeah.
We had the, what was it called, Memorial Cup, Centennial Cup? Whatever that cup's, the Royal Bank Cup.
Royal Bank Cup, yeah.
That was in 2000.
Yeah.
We had the Seniors Games, the Arctic Winter Games. These major events, including the more recent Western Canada Summer Games, do something to a community, don't they? They increase your capacity just by getting people involved and going through the process of what you just described.
Yeah, exactly. It shows people what they can do. We even have new members of the commission that have never done combative sports before, but they were one of the volunteers that worked with wrestling and thought it was something they really liked and that had never even been involved with wrestling before, but just being part of that event and volunteering, they went on to volunteer for the Combative Sports Commission in the municipality. So it kind of snowballs. After you get involved in one thing, it's almost like an addiction. You kind of see, I can do this. I helped create this huge event, and just look how awesome this is. And then after that event, they're looking for something else to do, be part of that again to get that same feeling back.
From a community development perspective, taking on these major events, while scary and sometimes expensive, reaps so many rewards.
Yeah, it just, like I said, it snowballs, and for years and years to come, that never goes away. You've always done that event, it's always been here, it's taken part of history.
So involved in boxing for the upcoming Winter Games, what month is it February? Now I'm really testing it.
Me, yeah.
Any idea how
Check
many
my emails.
boxers will come?
I think there's 6 in each division, and I have to look, but it's all male boxing, this one.
So boxing is still, do we have an active boxing scene in Fort McMurray?
There's a few clubs. We have boxing in our gym and a few days a week. With Craig Hillier, he's a teacher at Father Merck's school, and he's had over 80 boxing bouts in his career. And he teaches at Merck, and he teaches at my gym on 3 days a week.
When you and I were young, now I'm not going to date ourselves, but Muhammad Ali was still fighting, and George Foreman and those guys. Boxing was huge. When those big fights would be on television, everybody would tune in. Has that changed? Like, is MMA and various other things now so eclipse the traditional sport of boxing? I'm
pretty sure that boxing got ruined. We had to be a whole other show with Don King.
Oh, yeah.
I'm pretty sure the promotion of boxing never got, I'm going to say less popular, but the promotion of it really took a downturn during basically the Mike Tyson days, when his basically was ruined by promoters. That's my opinion, and it's probably documented somewhere.
I'm sure.
But I think that's what happened to boxing. And then it got to the point where it was getting too much of a show. Vander Holyfield getting his ear bitten off. I mean, stuff like that happening in a sport like that with such a high profile. And then that's when pay-per-view day, there's still $75 for pay-per-view. And you watch it for this one event, and then the guy that's the champion bites off the other athlete's ear. And then soon after goes to prison. For other,
it tainted the whole thing.
It just, I think that's what ruined boxing, was that era. And then you got into MMA when it was like, it's 2 normal guys, and it's all in line. There's nothing, you can't really fix it. You can't, there's not enough money in the sport for the athletes for them to take a bribe to fix it. So it's pretty real, and it kind of brought back what boxing was originally, is that combative sport.
I want to back up a little bit to the whole fire situation. You as a business owner, was it tough being out of commission as a business? And then how have you found coming back?
It was really tough. Like most of where I'm downtown on Franklin, like we lost Beacon Hill, Avisan, Waterways. Those are surrounding areas that most of my students were coming from for after school programs. So when those areas are basically gone, and then even people going back to their houses that were standing, took a while. So it had a big effect on us.
Got some support from the Red Cross as businesses?
Yeah, we're still going through that now, working on it and seeing what's there.
Yeah. How are things? We're almost a year after.
We're probably, now before the evacuation, we had waiting lists for every program. So the exact numbers, I wouldn't know. But now we have waiting lists in a few of our classes. So we're probably 75% of where we were before the evacuation.
How'd you do staff-wise?
Well, at first we lost some people. They were, after the evacuation, some people that were just young guys went on vacation, went to Thailand for 6 months because they could.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so we have some different staff in, new staff, but a lot of our staff is pretty much back to normal now.
We're almost out of time, and I like to give you an opportunity. I know you don't do anything alone.
No.
Certainly at the club, you have a lot of people that work with you. If they're listening, what would you say to them?
Keep what you're doing, show up on time. It's my biggest thing with my gym is that people are there on time, and the classes start on time and they end on time. I'm kind of a stickler for OCD when it comes to clock. Yeah.
And your kids, if they're listening to this, I guess they're going to soon be moving away from home, and your older one anyway, isn't 19, you said?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she's not moving away for a long time. She's kind of denned herself in downstairs of the house, so okay. I really don't think my kids are moving for a long time. I mean, there's a plan I have in place for myself. It doesn't include them. So whether they're staying in the house or not, I won't be there.
Well, thanks for coming in, Sandy. Thanks for all that you do in the community, and
thank you.
The role that sports plays, particularly with youth in this post-fire environment, is really critical. So thanks for all your efforts.
Oh, thank you very much.
My guest has been Sandy Bowman from Bowman's Taekwondo, also involved in the upcoming Alberta Winter Games in the sport of boxing. You've been listening to Impact. It is a collaboration of the United Way, Fuse Social, Shaw TV, Fort McMurray, and our friends right here at 91.1 The Bridge.